Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Raj Sivaraju, who is the president of APAC at Arite, which is a cyber security company. And Raj is also the founder of SabRentKaro, which is a rental e-commerce platform. Hi Raj, welcome to ELI.
Hi, Priya. Thank you for having me.
I would request you to introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Absolutely. Um, I am a serial entrepreneur, Priya, in that I had started my entrepreneurial journey way back when I was 22 years.
Mhm.
Started a digitization company where we were digitizing cadastral maps for the US and creating 3D models for earthquake, insurance companies.
Mhm.
And from that point on, when things led, one thing led to the other, and then I got into a job with Deloitte. I was with Deloitte for about 16 years. I was the CIO for Deloitte US in India. Set up a operation as large as 1,800 people, and then from there on, got my entrepreneurial bug back, and so got back into the entrepreneurial journey, and I've been a serial entrepreneur so far. My biggest passion has been people. I think over the years, I have gained a lot of experience in identifying talent, nurturing, and growing talent. To me, while I've been an IT person, I think I've transformed myself into more of a people's person.
Okay. Before we start talking about the businesses, Raj, I would love to know a little bit about your early life. What are the different things or major events that happened in your childhood or during your college days that led to entrepreneurship?
Absolutely. Right during my graduation, I think that will be the most important part. I had seen a huge transformation in the industries. IT was only then coming in. A lot of computerization, a lot of digitization started happening in corporate world.
Hmm.
Till then, it was all about, is somebody going to become an engineer, a civil engineer, or a mechanical engineer, or a doctor, right? Suddenly, IT started taking a center stage. And to me, the number of people who were getting into IT and what programming was all about, how they were able to make computers do what they want the computers to do, was my biggest, excitement.
Okay.
That was one of the biggest reasons I sort of started leaning towards the IT industry. This is very, very early, Priya, where at that time DBase and Fox Pro were there. There were still monochrome monitors. We didn't have a mouse at that point in time.
Hmm.
From that day on, I think where we are today, it's a huge shift. What we are seeing today is a day and night of what we used to have in the past.
Right.
So I think the transformation and the industrialization of computers has been a huge impact in my life.
Hmm. And a little bit about your first venture. How did you get started into entrepreneurship when entrepreneurship was not as cooler as it is today? And how did you get introduced to your client, and how was your experience of registering a
Absolutely.
company in a time when you don't have resources to on resources on how a company is registered and all?
Absolutely. And I think for that, I'll have to probably go a couple of decades back. So when I had started programming as a job with one of the apparel companies in Hyderabad.
Mhm.
During that time, my elder brother, who had a lot of interest in business, was looking for the right kind of opportunities.
Mhm.
And as I said, IT was a big deal. And that is when a lot of digitalization was happening.
Yeah.
That is when the likes of Autodesk came
Mm,
into being, where a lot of companies were, particularly engineering companies, were trying to take the manual blueprints and digitize them into computer files.
mm,
That was one of the big first ventures where my brother and I had started a company called Elmer Software Limited, where we were digitizing the blueprints, mechanical drawings to begin with. We started, our first client was Coromandel Fertilizers, which gave us a job because we were two young entrepreneurs or two young kids, after them sitting in front of their office every single day requesting for one opportunity.
yeah.
And we said we can help you digitize all of your blueprints, which are becoming, and taking up a lot of space from
Mm,
a storage perspective. And also you are losing because the paper eventually will disintegrate. So we were able to convince them, and they gave us an opportunity. From that point on, it was we never had to look back, because the kind of demand that we had created by digitizing, a lot of companies started accepting digitization as their core, and
mm,
we were continuing to get a lot of projects. At that
okay.
time, registering a company or even starting a business was not really favorable in many people's eyes. It's
Mm,
all about finding the right job, getting into a stable environment, stability equals job. And that is it was not favorable for all of us. And when we had to start off, we started off with very small capital. It was my brother and I. And then I actually got two of my colleagues who worked with me in the apparel industry to come and work with me. And the way I was able to convince them was to, give them the opportunity of becoming managers much faster than they could ever become. That was the only carrot I had given them. But it really worked out, because having the right kind of people with the right kind of skill sets in the starting makes the world of difference. So that's how my entrepreneurial journey had started here.
Uh, I think you ran your first venture for about 4.5 years, and then you switched to a different mode of working, which is working for a US-based company. Would love to know how that transition happened, because entrepreneurship is in any day is the highest form of work or venture. Why did you transition to a employee mode?
It was very easy for me in my mind, because um, the reason why I had to go into a corporate was because, as a first generation businessman, we had created excellent revenue. We grew very fast.
Mm,
And I think we, on the way, made few mistakes where our investment and reinvestment into the same business, without proper safety nets,
mm,
might have led us to go down in the business. So I was forced to get into a job and support my family,
mm,
because there was a huge need for me to get into a job so that I can support my brothers who are trying their hands in the business. It was easy for me because I accepted that only I can do a job and not my other brothers. And so it was a necessity for me. When there is necessity, as you know, necessity is the mother of invention.
right.
It was because it was necessary, I was able to accept and do what it really took. But
Mm,
I do want to point this out, though, Priyam. Having started as an entrepreneur, if you are able to adapt and adopt and keep an open mind, you can do whatever. And entrepreneurs usually are people who are ready to do what it takes. It
mm,
doesn't matter what it is, but they're ready to do what it takes. And therefore, for an entrepreneur to become an employee is an easier transition
that is
than an
true.
employee trying to become an entrepreneur.
Right.
To me, so therefore, my transition has been a smooth one.
Mm. Um, Again, when you joined Deloitte and you work for a couple other companies as well, you spent almost 1.5 decade or almost 2 decade as an employee. Then why did you again shift to entrepreneurship? What triggered that?
So Deloitte is one of those organizations where you truly can push the envelope. You can run, if you have the right kind of skills, Deloitte gives you the right opportunity. So I have always had that entrepreneurial nature in me, taking the center stage all the time. But
Mm,
after I became a partner and I became the head of the CIO, after which I sort of felt that I hit a glass ceiling, and I felt that I am doing the repetitive same thing over and over again, and I started getting a little bored. Right? To me, if the sense of enjoyment goes away from what you're doing, then what you do will be sub quality. And that's when I said, okay, you know what, I need to start looking at something else. That's when one of my conversations with my boys, my son, actually led to me to relook at entrepreneurship. It's a very interesting story, and I'm going to try and keep it very short, Priya. Where my son I know, he had come back and asked me for video games, and
mm,
I said, we just bought video game, a month ago. We can't keep buying 4,000 rupees worth video games every single month. And so he came back the next day and said, Dad, I have an idea. I'm going to put all my video games online
mm,
and invite all my friends to put their video games and see if I get what I am looking for. I didn't think much about it at that point in time. So I said, yeah, please go ahead and do it.
mm,
What was amazing was within a week or 10 days, he came back and he said, Dad, I got the video game that I was looking for and few more at free of cost, because I'm able to exchange the video games between my friends and I.
mm,
That was an aha moment for me. Said, imagine if we could create a platform where people can exchange their underutilized assets
mm,
and monetize on top of it. So that's how SabRentKaro sort of took shape. When my wife and my both my sons, we were all sitting and saying, okay, this is an idea. So what kind of name should we come up with?
mm,
And so my wife said, so you're looking at SabRentKaro, right? I said, yeah, we are looking at renting everything. So
mm,
she said, so then just call it SabRentKaro. So that's how that whole thing came up, and we started SabRentKaro as a website, a portal. But to me, the most important part, like I said, was to get the right people initially with the right skills, and who most importantly have to share your passion.
mhm,
To me, that was the most, the magic portion, right? If you have the people who share the same passion about the idea around you, they will give everything and more to make that idea a success. So I was able to really talk to some of my people within the network, my ex-colleagues, my friends, and I was able to handpick people who actually showed that interest and that passion on that idea. So we were able to very quickly form a team of about 6 of us, where 4 of them were IT software programmers. I had lost my touch from programming long back, so I gave the experts the thing to do, and I sort of started forming the entire support around the portal. So that's how SabRentKaro started off.
got you. And again, curious to know how did your transition from sub-rent crime? I'm sure that you are still running the company, but you're also heading the Asia Pacific operation for Arite. So tell us about it. How did that transition happen?
Sure. I think COVID dealt a death blow for SabRentKaro.
Mm,
because of the fact that the entire business was down, and particularly as many of you might relate with me, any e-commerce business, it takes a lot to get to a point.
mm,
After you get to a point, then it's easier. But to even get to a critical mass, by the time, before COVID hit, we were roughly around 4,300 rentals per month. We had about 180,000 people visiting our website looking for products to rent, every single month. We had products between a laptop to a private jet that you could rent online. We
mm,
were amongst the top three, rental platforms in India. But
mm,
once COVID hit, it took us right to the bottom. And for us to regain that position, we would have had to reinvest a lot of money to bring back all of the footfalls onto our platform,
mm,
which was a mammoth task and which was getting very, very difficult. During that time, one of my old friends from the US reached out and said, "Hey, I'm looking for help on my business. Do you want to, join hands?" So
mm,
that's how Arite came up. Arite is a very interesting concept, and this is something which nobody in India is doing today. They all are doing, some degree to it, but not to the level and depth that we are doing. So
mm,
Arite is an incident response company.
yeah,
When we talk about incidents, these are not those small alerts that you get on an endpoint monitoring tool or on your SIM, which
mm,
says, "Hey, this particular file was corrupted," or there's a virus attack. That's not what we're looking for.
mm,
What we do is when a company gets impacted by a cyber attack, and these days it's predominantly ransomware attacks.
mm,
When a company gets impacted by a ransomware attack, the first thing they do is to call an insurance carrier. So the insurance carrier, calls us. So we become the first line of defense for those companies
mm,
when they are dead in the water because they've been impacted by a huge ransomware and their entire infrastructure has been encrypted.
okay.
That's when we go in, we help them resolve that situation. Now we have every aspect. So right from identification of the malware variant to reverse engineering the malware to restoring business, and in situations where the clients do not have the right resources and the variant is something that we are unable to reverse engineer within a particular period of time, and if there's a sense of urgency, then we also communicate and negotiate with the threat actors, and we pay off the ransom on behalf of, or we facilitate the ransom payouts on behalf of the client
Mm,
on the behest of the insurance carriers, which is very, very unique in India. Nobody is doing that particular piece of negotiations and payoffs. This is something that we have created a lot of depth. We have people from the FBI and CIA working for us. We have a lot of our people who understand and talk Russian languages, Italian languages, because a lot of the threat actors somehow are from few specific areas. So we have people with a lot of those language skills so that they can talk to them, negotiate with them, and try and resolve the situation for our clients.
okay.
So that's how we started. This was about 4 years ago. Today we are a 250 member company doing everything from right from identification of the variant all the way through restoration for our clients.
Okay. Got you. Would love to know what are some of the major challenges that you have faced during your entrepreneurial journey and also during the employee journey where the work you did was also kind of entrepreneurial in nature.
Correct. So let me start with first on the entrepreneurial part. There's a saying which says it's very lonely at the top.
Hmm.
In a corporate setup, it is, yes, it is still, it becomes lonely, but there are still options where you can use mentoring, and try and have those conversations and maybe try and hear some, wise advices here once in a while. But
mm,
in an entrepreneurial journey, it gets even more lonelier because end of the day, the buck stops with you.
mm,
So to me, what the biggest lesson that I've learned is you got to have that mental strength, perseverance, and resilience from a mental perspective to be a very strong entrepreneur. If you're not strong mentally,
mhm,
being an entrepreneur can become very, very taxing on you. Um, the other quick lessons that I've learned, as I've shared, getting the right people is the biggest key to success.
mm,
You should spend as much time as possible, even if it takes a little longer. It's fine, but get the right people around you. 9 out of 10 times, you should always look for somebody who's smarter than you. As an entrepreneur, we always believe that the entrepreneur has to be the smartest,
mm,
which may not necessarily be true. You need to surround yourselves with people who are much smarter than you, because those are the ones who will really help you navigate through the entire environment that we are in, and they can help you take the company to next level and the next level and the next level. So these are a few lessons that I've learned from an entrepreneurial journey perspective. As far as working in a corporate environment,
mm,
one of the biggest mantras that I've learned is to be able to adapt and adopt, particularly in an environment which is, like a multinational environment, where if you need to really survive, you should know how to adapt and adopt. Now, when I say adapt and adopt, in our Indian languages, you can easily call it jugaad. Now, a lot of people think, the word jugaad is a very loose word, where people think it's used in very in a very poor situations, right?
mm,
But that necessarily is not the case. Jugaad, or being able to manage situations, is a key in a multinational and a corporate environment. Whatever situation you are in, you should know to manage that situation favorably.
okay,
If you're able to manage that situation, the managing situation could be anything.
mm,
Every situation is different, so you should know how to manage that situation. So to me, adapting and adopting was very, very important mantra for me to become successful, because I was able to scale the heights in a corporate environment as competitive as Deloitte. And
mm,
I was able to do that only because I was able to adapt and adopt very quickly.
got you. You said you are a people person. You have kind of built very scalable and successful teams over time. Uh, can you tell us how what is the right way to manage people? Because lot of startup founders, they face a lot of challenge in the people management part, because uh,
Absolutely.
you have not you have to pay them their salary. You have also to motivate them to do their work, and success or failure of the startup depends on the people you hire, right? So that's the
Absolutely.
biggest challenge for any entrepreneur. Can you tell a little bit about your experience around people?
Absolutely. Um, Two important words, and I will build on those two words, right? The first one is um, compromise. The second one is empathy. Now, let's talk about compromise. In there, a lot of times, when people say you should never compromise,
Mm,
I truly believe that that's not what it is. You should be in a position to because you should always be the one taking the higher road in situations where you get into a stalemate.
right.
So to me, when you compromise, lot of times, and this is something that I've personally experienced, and that's why I believe it's very important, right? When you compromise, you build a stronger relationship with people.
Mm,
When you compromise, you are saying, I am going to trust you because I'm going to, compromise on this situation and let you go with the direction you are saying we should go. I'm going to follow you. And to me, that is a way to build a very strong relationship with people that you are working with.
mm,
The second part was empathy. If you can empathize with people, you build a strong relationship which is going to be really yielding results much, much faster. So you should know how to empathize, because a lot of times we never put ourselves in other people's shoes and think why somebody is reacting the way they are, why somebody is acting the way they are, why somebody is not performing the way they should be performing. We
mm,
don't do that. We expect and we want it to be, the way we are, right?
mm,
But usually people are so different. You're different to me and I'm different to you.
right.
If we can understand that, you can start empathizing with people. You can start putting yourself in their shoes and trying to relate to them, which will give much better, easier, faster results than otherwise, right? So to me, these are two things when dealing with people you should always keep in mind. You should be ready to compromise, because relationships are all about compromise. And at the same time, you should be, empathetic towards people.
Got you. Uh, what would you say is the meaning of entrepreneurship for you? How would you define the term entrepreneur?
An entrepreneur is somebody who should be able to do what it takes to make things work. That is enterprising. That is entrepreneur. There is nothing that an entrepreneur has the luxury to say, this is something I will not do. An entrepreneur will never have that luxury. The entrepreneur has to do what it takes to make things work.
Okay.
That is a true definition of an entrepreneur. That's a true definition of somebody who's really enterprising and who has that leadership quality to be an entrepreneur.
My final question: what are the
Sure.
some of the interesting lessons that you have learned over your entrepreneurial and your work experience that other entrepreneurs can take away and probably apply to their ventures as well?
On both these, Priya, I think one thing is very common. Never take success for granted, right? Just because we have experienced success one time doesn't mean the success will keep coming back to us. When you succeed, that's when you should be even more humble and try to be more with people at that time. Not when when things are not going well. A lot of people start saying, I need people around me.
Hmm.
When you succeed, people say, you know what, I have arrived, so I don't need people around me.
Hmm.
I truly think that even when you succeed, it is very important that you share that success with people. It is very important that you attribute that success to people the right way.
Hmm.
And to me, that is the biggest thing that we need to. So never take success for granted. Always be humble and always be empathetic.
Got you. So on this note, we'll close our session. Thanks for your time, Raj, and it was a great pleasure to have you on our platform.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much for the conversation. I enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Raj.